So it is that time again, and we are back with our weekly championship score predictions. Let's hop into this one. So we actually have an international break coming up after this weekend, so it's going to be quite important that teams don't go into this international break with a bit of bad momentum. You know, normally around this time is when we see the first managerial sacking of the season as well, so that's definitely going to be one to keep your eyes on. Before we do hop into anything though, a big shout out to our sponsors over at OneFootball. As always, you can find the new OneFootball app in the top line of the description down below. Loads going on over on the OneFootball app at the moment, as we are now into this new season. If you want to get live updates to your phone whenever a goal does go in the championship, you know me, I always like to keep on top of every goal that is going in. OneFootball's a really handy place to go ahead and manage that. We're also coming towards the end of this transfer window now, so if you want to get all those last minute deals updated to your phone, then OneFootball's the place to be. Michael Preston has just finally made a new signing. We'll be talking about that in today's video, but get all the latest updates down below on OneFootball. And now without any further ado, let's hop into these score predictions. So starting out with tonight's game, that sees Coventry going up against Bournemouth. I'm interested to look into these two sides tonight in a little bit more detail now. Bournemouth off to a flyer of a start, 7 points from their first 3 matches. Danjuma really has stole the show for them so far. Got the winner in their last game at the weekend against Norwich with that fantastic finish from outside the box. Bournemouth have got a couple of creative players in there who I'm looking forward to seeing the outlay of goals they can actually produce this season. Added to that, they've also recently completed the signing of Riquelme from under Reading's nose as well. He's another exciting addition coming into this side, but Coventry have looked fairly stable at the back so far. It was a clean sheet in their last game against Barnsley. I'd also say that going forward, Gustavo Hamer so far really excites me for this upcoming season. In fact, no player has had more completed key passes this season than Hamer in that Coventry midfield. So there's a nice balance to that Coventry side at the moment with the way they play with the wing backs. Matty Godden's already off the mark in terms of goals, but there's a lot of quality in that Bournemouth squad at the moment, and I think they will continue to score goals. Score prediction, I think I'm edging towards Bournemouth, but Coventry will give them a good run for their money. I'm going to go 2-1 Bournemouth, whereas FIFA's saying it'll be a goalless draw. Close game, I think that'll be a closely contested one. Next up then to the early kick-off on Saturday, that sees Norwich going up against Derby. I'm also interested to see the outcome of this one. Now, neither side has got off to a particularly flying start to the season, but it's definitely Derby who's had the more turbulent time at the moment. The thing that I go back to with Derby and their performances so far this season is that intensity's just not been there from them. It was evident in the cup game that we had against Derby. It was once again on show last weekend against Blackburn. It was far too easy for Blackburn to get in behind them. The intensity for winning the ball back and giving the ball away, they were too ponderous, building the play up through midfield as well. That can't be the case in this one against Norwich, who I don't think are, you know, the complete package as of right now. I think defensively you can still get at them a little bit, and with some of the options that Derby have going forward, I'd like to think that there will be a couple of goals scored in this one. However, when Norwich do click going forward, and I think they will eventually this season, there's a whole bunch of goals to be had in that side. So far this season, I don't think that Daniel Farke particularly maybe knows his best 11, or is it not having the players available? As of recording, it's looking like Ben Godfrey is going to be off. The situation with Todd Cantwell and Buendia is still very much up in the air. I'd like to see Mario Varancic reintroduced into the starting 11 for this one. I thought he looked decent off the bench against Bournemouth, certainly gave them a bit more creativity going forward from midfield. Score prediction, I'm edging towards Norwich. I just don't see it with Derby happening at the moment. I'm going to go 2-1 to the home side, with FIFA saying it'll be a 0-0 draw. And then we go to probably the most informed side in the league at the moment, Blackburn Rovers, especially one of the most interesting to watch going forward. They're up against Cardiff, who have had a bit of a stuttering start to the season. Home games haven't quite gone their way so far. Looking back on that opening day fixture that they had against Sheffield Wednesday very much looked to play on breaks with the likes of Josh Windass looking to get in behind. That's exactly what Blackburn are going to be looking to thrive off. You know, Windass got quite a bit of joy in that match, and Adam Armstrong, who is very much the league's most informed striker at this point in time with 5 goals already, you give him any sort of chances to run in behind, he's going to take that. And though that forward 3 for Blackburn and the midfield 3, who I think we have mentioned quite a few times as being quite underrated, it's a good setup that they got there at the moment. They've also been keeping things fairly tight at the back as well. Cardiff, like I said, have been quite up and down in their performances. I like them away at Nottingham Forest. Kiefer Moore got a couple of goals in that one. Blackburn just seem to have the formula at the moment. For a score prediction, I'm going to go 2-0 Blackburn. Maybe not as free scoring as they have been in recent weeks, but I do fancy them for all 3 points again, whereas FIFA's saying it'll be 1-0 Blackburn. Next up we then get to Luton up against Wycombe. Now Luton had made a good start to the season by all accounts. Last weekend was a bit of a disappointment though, up against Watford. Watford the first time they played in however long it was, and the performance and the intensity just wasn't quite there for them. Back at home for this one though, up against the Wycombe side who has struggled to make that jump up in quality so far. I think it's fair to say, you know, the game against Swansea last weekend, the one against Blackburn before that, you could see the levels between the two sides looked absolutely massive, if I'm being honest with you. You know, in the Swansea game, Swansea could have had 3 or 4 goals by the time it was half time if they put the foot on the gas a little bit more. This one up against Luton though, I think what's most important from a Wycombe point of view is that they don't concede early once again. You know, it happened against Swansea, it happened against Blackburn. I think they're a side who's very much set up to play on the break and then pick their moments when they go forward with set pieces and things like that, and we have seen them being a little bit effective with them. You know, it's the second half of the Swansea game when Swansea set off a little bit more. They did put some really decent balls into the box. It's just a question of, can they keep Luton out? I think that Collins and Cornick have formed a decent partnership once again so far this season. I think they'll be involved in a lot of the goals for Luton. Score prediction, I am going to back the home side. I've just seen more from them so far this season. I'm going to go 2-0, whereas FIFA is saying it'll be 1-0 Wycombe. And then we head to the Riverside as we've got Middlesbrough up against Barnsley. Two sides who I think have been maybe a little bit unfortunate not to have more points on the board than they actually do. The performances have both been fairly decent. You know, Middlesbrough, I think it's a building process. We saw Tuba Akpom get off the mark in their last game, a 1-0 draw against Queen's Park Rangers. Barnsley have just struggled to hit the back of the net so far this season, haven't they? They're one of 3 clubs who are yet to score in the league as of yet. Their last game being a goalless draw up against Coventry. Before that, they had the game against Reading where it was all a bit mad, really. They were really on top in that one until they had those 2 red cards and then just couldn't sustain that pressing football that Barnsley like to go with. 2 very different philosophies coming into this one as well. We're still waiting to see what's happening with Gerhard Struber. Is he going to be going over to the MLS and to New York Red Bulls? We'll wait off and see. I don't think there'll be all too much in it between these two sides. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. A bit of a building process going on at both clubs at the moment, and FIFA is going to agree with me. And then we get to Nottingham Forest up against Bristol City. Nottingham Forest, another side who's yet to hit the back of the net so far this season. Now, Forest, I have to say, are making me look a little bit silly so far this season. So far in these prediction videos, I've backed them to win every match. How many games have they won? None. It's been an awful start to the season for Nottingham Forest, hasn't it? And it's not going to get much easier up against this Bristol City side who I've been really impressed by so far. 2 sides who have done quite a bit of summer recruitment, but the Bristol City new boys seem to have bedded in fairly well so far. Chris Martin especially, I think, has been absolutely excellent in terms of bringing others into play. He's already got a couple of assists in there. I think that him and Naki Wells really will cause Forest some problems. And at this point in time, I just can't see Forest keeping a clean sheet. That's going to mean they're going to need a couple of goals in this one. Where are those goals going to come from? Individually, they have a whole bunch of talent in that squad at the moment, but the system, I don't know if it is the manager or that's not allowing them to play at the level that we all know they're capable of. It's a really odd one for Forest. I mean, in their game up against Huddersfield, they had 8 new signings in that squad who weren't at the club last season. All of those new players, and with such a high turnover, it's going to take time to bed them in, but at the moment, it doesn't seem like Sabri Lamucci has all too much of that. Score prediction time, going to go 2-1 Bristol City. They just look like the much stronger outfit so far this season, with FIFA saying 1-0 Bristol City. After that, we then get to Reading against Watford, 2 of the fastest starters in the league so far. Reading having won all of their matches so far, and Watford with 2 wins and a draw. Watford also yet to concede in the league so far this season. It's a tough prediction to make this one without seeing both lineups coming into this one, because they do both have a couple of injury doubts coming into this one. Reading and I have got a couple of long-term injuries now. The one for John Swift doesn't look all too good, which is a real shame. I was hoping for big things for him in Reading this season. But Lucas João, though, is the other big unknown coming into this match. When he picked up the injury, it was looking like he'd definitely be out for this one, but by all accounts, if reports are to be believed, then he's actually been recovering quite well, and the late decision will be made if he can feature or not. For Watford, I know Chalobah's picked up a knock. That's going to be a blow for them in midfield. But things for Watford are slowly starting to fall into place. Obviously, I think they'll take a lot of confidence from that win they got over Luton last time. Defensively, they've been so tight so far this season. They don't give any chances away. And with players starting to return and filter back into that Watford side going forward, they seriously look like they're going to have a lot of firepower in these next few weeks. Score prediction time. Tough one. I'm going to go 1-0 Watford on the basis that João's going to miss this one. If he is fit and recovered, I'd be edging more towards maybe a draw or something then. FIFA's also going to agree with me and say 1-0 Watford, but tough one to make without seeing the lineups for that one. Next up, we then got Rotherham going up against Huddersfield. Now, between these two sides so far this season, they've just scored 1 goal from open play. That was Huddersfield, and their cracking winner, Fraser Campbell, against Nottingham Forest, with that acrobatical effort to go ahead and win that one. Obviously, Rotherham have had a couple of goals so far, them coming from the penalty spot and from set piece. pieces. That's going to be important for this one, but Rotherham have done a really nice bit of business recently. Re-signing Dan Barlaser, who's coming over from Newcastle. They had him on loan there last season. Cracking player in League One. Really looking forward to seeing how he adapts to the Championship. It's the sort of game where if anyone is going to go on and win it, it'll probably be one goal either side. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw, I think, for this one. Don't think there'll be all too much to separate them. I think that Rotherham will look to be strong at home this season, but Huddersfield will take a lot of confidence from last time against Forest. After that, we then get to Sheffield Wednesday up against QPR. Now, this one could very much be the battle of the new strikers. Sheffield Wednesday and Callum Patterson, I wouldn't be too surprised to see him being thrown into the starting 11 straight away. We've already spoken about the potential partnership between him and Josh Windass this season. I think that those two could be quite an effective partnership. Obviously, Wednesday normally adopting to go for that two up front. And QPR the other day did complete the signing of Macaulay Bonne. He's coming over from Charlton. I'm interested to see how he gets on, because by no means is Macaulay Bonne the finished product. I think he actually did really well for Charlton last season to score as many goals as he did. I think if anything he was a little bit ahead of schedule from what they thought they'd be with the injury to Lyle Taylor, but he bagged 11 goals in the Championship last season. The fee rising up to potentially £2 million if reports are to be believed, which seems quite a bit of money for QPR to be throwing about at the moment. I'm interested to see if any sort of partnership develops between Bonne and Dykes. I think that Dykes already has shown his hold at play. He brings us into play quite well. If they manage to retain Asai Samuel as well, that could be an interesting trio going forward. I honestly don't think there'll be ultimate in this one. I'm going to go for another draw in this one. I'm going to go for a 1-1 with FIFA saying it'll be 1-0 Wednesday. Obviously important for Wednesday that they carry on ticking over, but QPR have always got a goal or two in them. Next up we then got Swansea going up against Millwall. Now, I can't see all too many goals being scored in this one. Both teams have kept things very tight at the back so far this season. Swansea having kept 3 clean sheets and Millwall only conceding 1 goal, and that was up against a very good Brentford side. The issues with Millwall so far this season have come at the opposite end of the pitch, and that's been getting into consistent goal scoring opportunities. Both goals they have scored in the league so far this season have come through Jed Wallace, so he's obviously going to be a constant threat. Put up fantastic numbers last season and has already got off to a flyer this time round. With Swansea, things are starting to form. You know, there's a bit of a relationship starting to happen between that trio they've got going forward of AU, Lowe and Morgan Gibbs-White. Gibbs-White especially really shown his quality in the few matches I've seen him at Swansea so far. Obviously scored against Michael at Preston and Deepdale. He also was pulling the strings for them last weekend up against Wycombe. He was unlucky not to get a goal for himself in that one. It's the sort of game which has a very much like a 1-0 feel to it. I feel like whoever scores first in this game goes on to win it, because I think they'll just shut off the opposition. For a score prediction, FIFA's backing Millwall for a 1-0, so I'll go the opposite and back Swansea. It does very much have that sort of feel to it, I think. And then moving on into Sunday's game, the first kickoff we have is Brentford going up against North End. Now, this is not a drill. Preston have finally gone ahead and signed someone, and it is a striker, the exact profile that we were after in this transfer window. Emil Reece-Jacobson coming over, and by all accounts seemed to tick every box that we were looking at, really. Obviously a fairly young striker, only 22 years old, big and mobile, 6'3", has a turn of pace about him as well. It's what we've been crying out for after losing Jayden Stockley, really. However, a trip to Griffin Park's not the easiest of debuts that's been set up, has it? The only sort of positive I can take into this one will be that maybe Brentford will be a little bit more jaded than us, having played on Thursday. Speaking of that Thursday performance though, they absolutely blew Fulham out the water, didn't they? 3-0, if only they played like that in the playoff final. But Saïd Benrahma absolutely stole the show. After the playoff final, we weren't sure if we'd ever see Benrahma in the Brentford shirt again, but the second goal was an absolute cracker, just the sort of quality that he's capable of. Godos we also saw the first glimpse of in the Brentford shirt as well. Listen, it was a very good and well-drilled performance. I think at home this season, they're bound to continue to roll out teams and score goals. You know, they put 3 past Huddersfield. Preston did come up against Brentford towards the tail end of last season, and to be honest, there wasn't all too much in that game. It was just that little bit more quality in the final third that ended up getting Brentford over the line. It was a terrific finish from Ollie Watkins. For this one, I think that there is much more positivity around North End having made the signing, but Brentford's going to be a very tough game. I'm going to say that Brentford will win by 2-0. I just think going forward they'll have a little bit too much. FIFA, going to say it's going to be a 1-1 draw. And then finishing today off with Stoke going up against Birmingham. The second kickoff we got going on Sunday. Obviously, Stoke were in action in the Carabao Cup in midweek, beating Birmingham rivals Aston Villa in that one. Sam Vokes' header was enough to see them through in that one. It's going to be an interesting one. Another one which I see being a fairly low scoring one this weekend. We got a couple of these encounters which I think are going to be really quite close. Obviously, we've already seen the effect that Aitor Karanka's had on this Birmingham side. Rigid would be how I'd describe them at the moment. You know, defensively, don't give all too much away. Still waiting to see things really click for them going forward, but they certainly have the personnel there. I'm also interested to see when Mikel San Jose gets his first start for Birmingham. I know he's been training well with them this week, I think. He was in contention for playing this weekend. Just the core of that Birmingham squad's looking quite strong at the moment, especially compared to a couple of years ago. Up against this Stoke side though, who also they themselves don't give much away to the opposition, do they? In their last game it was a 1-0 away victory at Deepdale, where it was a good second half performance from them, can't lie about that. They had chances to make it more than one that they eventually got in that game. But for this one I can't see there being all too much in it. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw with Thief agreeing with me on that one. But guys, there we have it there on my Championship score predictions for what I see happening in this weekend's game. So as always, do get your score predictions in the comments down below for a chance to be involved in the next video and to get yourself onto the prediction league. But guys, thanks so much for watching. If you did go on to enjoy, make sure to leave a like and please do stick around and subscribe for a bit of regular Championship content. But apart from that, thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you all in the next one.